In Deuteronomy 18:20, God declares, "The prophet who speaks a word presumptuously in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, that prophet shall die." So, if someone claims to be a prophet but delivers a revelation that doesn't really come from God, he's a false prophet, according to Deuteronomy 18:20. In the History of At-Tabari, Volume 6, page 111, Muhammad confesses, "I have fabricated things against God and have imputed to him words which he has not spoken." So, Muhammad, who claimed to be a prophet, admitted that he delivered a revelation that didn't really come from God. If both of these passages are correct, party's over, Muslims. Your prophet was a fraud, a fake, a phony. Hence, if you want to believe that Muhammad was a true prophet, you either have to reject Deuteronomy 18:20, or you have to reject Muhammad's claim that he delivered a revelation that didn't come from God, or you have to reject both. Let's see how these escape routes are going to work out for you. We'll begin with Deuteronomy 18:20. The verse reads, "But the prophet who speaks a word presumptuously in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or which he speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die." Here we have two ways of spotting a false prophet. If someone claims that a revelation comes from God, but it doesn't actually come from God, he's a false prophet. Or if he speaks in the name of other gods, he's a false prophet. Now, why should Muslims believe that delivering a false revelation and speaking in the name of other gods are signs of a false prophet? I can think of at least three reasons. First, these criteria seem intuitively obvious. It just makes sense to think that if a person promotes polytheism or says, "Here's a revelation that comes from God," and it's not from God, that person isn't a true prophet. If you want to reject these criteria, you have to say that a true prophet can promote polytheism or deliver revelations that don't really come from God, and that would seem like a pretty strange view. If even true prophets can speak in the name of other gods and deliver false revelations, how would we know when to believe them? But the verse also says that we find Muhammad mentioned in the Torah and the Gospel, and this has led nearly 14 centuries of Muslims to search for prophecies of Muhammad in the Torah and the Gospel. After nearly 14 centuries of searching, what's the most popular so-called prophecy of Muhammad in the Torah? A prophecy used by Zakir Naik and Shabir Ali and Jamal Badawi and Ahmed Deedat. It's the prophecy about the coming of a prophet like Moses, a prophecy found in, you guessed it, Deuteronomy 18. Deuteronomy 18 is the foundation of Islam's argument from biblical prophecy, used by Muslim apologists around the world to prove that Muhammad was a true prophet. The popular Brief Illustrated Guide to Understanding Islam uses Deuteronomy 18 as its primary evidence that the Bible predicts the coming of Muhammad. Author I.A. Ibrahim states, "The biblical prophecies on the advent of the Prophet Muhammad are evidence of the truth of Islam for people who believe in the Bible. In Deuteronomy 18, Moses stated that God told him, 'I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell them everything I command him. If anyone does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks in my name, I myself will call him to account.'" Deuteronomy 18, 18-19. Now, if Muslim apologists around the world are quoting this passage to show that Muhammad was a prophet of God, they obviously regard it as inspired. And if they're granting the inspiration of Deuteronomy 18, verses 18-19, they obviously can't deny the very next verse, Deuteronomy 18, verse 20. So, from an Islamic perspective, Deuteronomy 18:20 is unassailable. And Deuteronomy 18:20 gives us two criteria for spotting a false prophet. If someone speaks in the names of other gods, he's a false prophet. If he delivers a false revelation, he's a false prophet. Interestingly, Muhammad did both when he delivered the infamous satanic verses. We learn about the satanic verses not from Jewish or Christian sources, but from early Muslim writings. Let's read a passage from the History of At-Tabari to see what happened. The History of At-Tabari, Volume 6, page 108. "When the messenger of God saw how his tribe turned their backs on him and was grieved to see them shunning the message he had brought to them from God, He longed in his soul that something would come to him from God, which would reconcile him with his tribe. With his love for his tribe and his eagerness for their welfare, it would have delighted him if some of the difficulties which they had made for him could have been smoothed out, and he debated with himself and fervently desired such an outcome. Then God revealed, "By the star when it sets, your comrade does not err, nor is he deceived, nor does he speak out of his own desire." That's the beginning of Surah 53 of the Quran. And when he came to the words, "Have you thought upon Allat, Alusa, and Manat, the third, the other," that's verses 19 through 20 of Surah 53, Satan cast on his tongue, because of his inner debates and what he desired to bring to his people, the words, "These are the high-flying cranes. Verily their intercession is accepted with approval." That last part was originally the next verse of Surah 53. Allat, Alusa, and Manat were three pagan goddesses. When Surah 53 was revealed, the Quran called them the high-flying cranes whose intercession is accepted with approval, meaning that Allat, Alusa, and Manat were like birds that could carry your prayers to Allah. Muhammad bowed down in honor of this revelation, and as usual, his followers bowed down with him. But the polytheists were so delighted that Muhammad had finally approved of their gods, they joined in and prostrated themselves because of the reference to their gods which they had heard, so that there was no one in the mosque, believer or unbeliever, who did not prostrate himself. So the pagans were bowing down in worship with Muhammad and his followers because Muhammad and the Quran had shown respect for their goddesses. But Muhammad's friendly relations with the polytheists didn't last long. He soon learned that his verses praising pagan goddesses didn't come from Allah, they came from Satan. Gabriel visited Muhammad and said, "Muhammad, what have you done? You have recited to the people that which I did not bring to you from God, and you have said that which was not said to you." This is the angel Gabriel telling Muhammad that he delivered a revelation that didn't come from God. "In my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or which he speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die." Here we have two ways of spotting a false prophet. If someone claims that a revelation comes from God, but it doesn't actually come from God, he's a false prophet. Saddened to recognize his treachery against Allah, Muhammad lamented, "I have fabricated things against God and have imputed to him words which he has not spoken." Words which he has not spoken. So both Gabriel and Muhammad plainly state that Muhammad meets the criteria of a false prophet in Deuteronomy 18:20. Muhammad remained grief-stricken and anxious until the revelation of the verse, "Never did we send a messenger or a prophet before you," to the words, "God is knower, wise." Let's read the entire verse to see how Allah comforted Muhammad after Muhammad humiliated himself by advocating shirk. The verse reads, "Never did we send a messenger or a prophet before you, but when he recited the revelation or narrated or spoke, Satan threw some falsehood in it. But Allah abolishes that which Satan throws in. Then Allah establishes his revelations, and Allah is all-knower, all-wise. But when he recited the revelation or narrated or spoke, Satan threw some falsehood in it. But Allah abolishes that which Satan throws in. Then Allah establishes his revelations, and Allah is all-knower, all-wise."